A couple years ago, everything was selling out and reselling for a ton of money. Jordan 1 mids were impossible to get. Yeezy slides were 4 to 5 times retail price, and some GR dunks were $400 to $500. And that was a great time to be a reseller, but now it's the opposite. It's our turn. It's a great time to be a sneakerhead and grab some of the sneakers that you really wanted for a reasonable price. But this will not last forever. Like everything, there's ups and downs. So here's 7 sneakers I think will be way more expensive in the very near future. The first one I want to talk about is the Spider-Man Jordan 1. Now, to be clear, I think that there's actually plenty of time before this sneaker actually gets pretty expensive. The Jordan 1 hype train has pretty much reached the bottom, which I'm personally kind of happy about. I've managed to grab some incredible colorways at retail or sometimes even less, and these included. But these are based off of the Jordan 1 Chicago colorway, and the collaboration itself is pretty much over now. I mean, there potentially could be one more pair for the upcoming movie, but apart from that, it's over. I think in a couple years, these could have a similar story to the original Spider-Man 1s that are now reselling for a lot more than they originally were. Now, granted, this pair is definitely different, a lot more on the crazy side in terms of colorway and design, but I still think the sentiment is there, and I could definitely see these things creeping up in price over the long term. And now another Jordan 1 that I think is a little bit more straightforward, the Jordan 1 High 85 black and white. Now, this is one that I can see becoming more expensive in a shorter period of time. I mean, it's an original Jordan 1 colorway. It was pretty limited. It's only the second retro of a black and white Jordan 1. Not to mention that the last retro was almost a decade ago. Yes, I think that this pair of sneakers is definitely the product of oversaturation of the Jordan 1 silhouette in general, but it's one of the most iconic colorways, one of the simplest colorways, and just a super versatile option. So yes, if this is a sneaker that you've had your eye on, I definitely don't think it's a bad time to pull the trigger right now. I could see these things getting more expensive, even potentially by the end of the year. Alright, next up is a pair of sneakers that I think will give us deja vu. Yeezy 350 Onyx. Now, when these first released, they were reselling for relatively close to the retail price. Fast forward a year, and right before the most recent Yeezy Day restock, they climbed all the way up to $400, which, considering that there was a decent amount of stock of these things when they originally released, was pretty crazy. Definitely shows that a lot of people wanted this colorway of the Yeezy 350. I think this time will be exactly the same, except they're not coming back. I mean, we pretty much know every single Yeezy silhouette that is sat in Adidas's warehouse that they plan to end up releasing. Now, there's definitely potential that Adidas still has a couple pairs lying around in their warehouse that they didn't fully sell out on. Keep in mind that most regions Adidas dropped these Yeezys in, they said that they do not accept returns. So I think it's highly likely that we don't see this sneaker again for another retail release. Either way, I think it's a solid pair of 350s. I think it's also the cheapest pair of all black 350s that you can buy, so I learned my lesson and I'm definitely keeping my pair. Now, another 350 that even after getting knocked down a bunch of times, it somehow still finds a way to pick itself up off the floor and keep pushing. The Zebra 350s. I mean, just look at the StockX graph for this pair of shoes. You can literally see every single time that it's restocked and drop down in price and then quickly after shoot right back up. And it's crazy because the 350 Zebras have restocked a lot of times, but again, they keep on bouncing back up and still end up reselling. All is said and done. Now, just like I said with the Onyx 350s, this is also another pair of Yeezys that we're probably going to see the last of. So it's very likely that from this point, the Yeezy 350 Zebra just keeps rising. I mean, really, the longer you wait on this pair of shoes, the worse it's probably gonna be. I could easily see this pair being all the way up to $500, maybe more in the next couple years. I personally doubled up. It's an all-white pair of 350s, and I tend to thrash my 350s and just wear them a ton, so yeah, I've got a fresh pair waiting for me whenever that day is. Alright, let's talk about a sneaker that I think is going to have a much quicker rise, and that is the Jarritos Nike Dunk Low. Now, this is a pair of dunks that has already been rapidly increasing in price, even though the release was a month ago. It went from mid $300 on release day to now being almost $500. I mean, the stock was low and the hype is definitely there for this pair of shoes. I can honestly see this being a pair of sneakers that resells for well over $600, even by the end of the year. I mean, after I unsurprisingly got an L on the Nike sneakers app, I went out and bought my pair for 320 pounds. Now it's on release day, and if I had waited, I mean, people are already asking a lot more for my size with this pair of shoes. So yeah, even though the price right now is painful, if you really had your heart set on this pair of shoes, right now may just be the best time. Alright, next up, of course, we got to talk about the sneaker that is at the top of most people's favorite sneaker for this year so far, and that is the Jordan 4 Nike SB. Now, this sneaker right here is the final boss for Jordan 4s. It is strapped heavy heavy with hype. Now, whether you think that the hype is justified or not, Nike and Jordan Brand knew exactly what they were doing with this collaboration. They created a sneaker that obviously everybody wants. And I mean, I can't lie, this is definitely one of my favorite sneakers to drop this year as well. Now, with that being said, stock was pretty limited on this pair of shoes. It's the first ever Jordan 4 Nike SB collaboration, and it's a clean colorway. I begrudgingly had to pay a lot more for this pair of shoes than I initially wanted to. Now, my girlfriend wants a pair too, so yeah, I need to grab a pair ASAP. I could easily see this pair going up to like $500 even by the end of the year. All right, this one, I'm combining a couple different sneakers because they're relatively similar. We've got two different models, the Yeezy Foam Runner and the Yeezy Slide. So pretty much the ones that I'm talking about are all the different colorways that dropped on this most recent Yeezy day. So the Yeezy Slide Azure, the Onyx, and the three different foam runners depending on what region you're in. Only the US got the clay red colorway, but the taupe and the MX Cinder. These two models are the most hyped Yeezy models out there. I'd say that the slides slightly get the edge on the foam runners in terms of hype. But surprisingly, all of these different foam runners and slides that dropped on this most recent Yeezy day, they're actually reselling for a reasonable price. I think that's because there was a decent amount of stock of all of them. I mean, if I didn't get any of these for retail, I wouldn't be too mad at actually looking towards the secondary market. Now, for the slides, the Azure pair I could see getting pretty expensive over the long term. I mean, if the orange Yeezy slide can almost be $300, then yeah, you do not want to be paying that for a pair of slides. Now, the Onyx Yeezy slide I could easily see going back up to $200. I mean, it did it before the restock, so yeah, again, not a fun price tag. Now, the MX Cinder Yeezy Foam Runner could also be a pretty expensive pair, especially given the fact that most other MX versions of the Yeezy Foam Runner are already reselling for like $300 plus, and it's just hard to shell out that much money on a piece of foam that retails for 80 bucks. I think the Onyx Yeezy Slide and the MX Cinder Yeezy Foam Runner will probably end up being the most expensive out of all of them. An all black pair of slides is a no-brainer. It's something that's been tremendously popular with Yeezy slides in the past. So yeah, if you really wanted to get your hands on any of these, I'd say right now is not a bad time. All right, lastly, I got a couple pairs that I didn't think should really be on this list, but I did kind of want to briefly mention. The first one is the Jordan 1 Chicago. I feel like it's a pair of shoes that we've spoke about so many times. I mean, it's pretty much a no-brainer. It's an iconic pair of Jordan 1s, the Chicago colorway. Obviously, it's going to go up in price over time. Now, another one that I think in kind of the short term is going to go up in price, definitely has a ceiling, but it's the Jordan 1 Tiana Taylor Zoom Comfort 2. This is definitely one of the most surprising sneakers I've had this whole year. It's a pair of shoes that I initially pretty much wrote off, but once I got it in hand, it ended up being one of the coolest collaborations I've seen. The details, the materials, the unboxing, the added extras, it all just adds up to be a pretty phenomenal pair of shoes. Now, I can't see this pair being ridiculously expensive, but it was ridiculously limited. So by the end of the year, maybe holiday season, I can see these things rising quite a bit. Obviously, all of this is just my opinion. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not looking into the future. I would also love to know your guys' opinion on these. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Drop it down in the comments. Either way, guys, I want to remind you that obviously all of these sneakers on today's list are sneakers that are sold out and reselling. But right now, you can get some seriously good sneakers that are sat on shelves or even under retail. Like I said, it's a great time to be a sneakerhead. And if you want to check out my top 10 Jordan 1s under retail price, that video's right over there.